passion of mine. And I obviously studied it where I met you.
Yeah.
And then obviously leaving uni, I was, it's always that kind of thing of you feel like becoming a professional musician is like becoming a professional footballer.
Yeah.
It always feels like a pipe dream, And for me, it was just like a case of, I kind of went in it kind of blind, leaving Lipper. I kind of, it was all kind of very, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I thought one thing that will kind of, hopefully set me apart was my like work ethic of, really wanting to succeed. And also the fact that I was surrounded by good people. So like, I always think my biggest strengths are, if you surround yourself by good people, that only makes you look good, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just got together with, obviously great co-writers, band members and all of that. And then it kind of obviously led from one thing to the other. So my first initial break would have been probably having my EP recorded by Keane. So that would have been the first initial break. But I had a manager at the time that then came from that recording, and all of these things that kind of trickled from that initial exposure of recording with, a big band.
Yeah.
But then obviously due to my health, I had to take a couple of years off. And but during that time of the 2 years of, kind of taking a step back from doing live gigs, prior to that, we would have probably have been trying to do at least 50 gigs a year, which looking back on that now isn't enough.
Yeah.
My height, I was probably doing, I think we did like 100 gigs in 22 countries in a space of like 9 months, which was pretty crazy. But anyway, back to that kind of point of taking, I suppose at that point when I got ill, I was kind of like taking stock of where I was at in my life. And I was kind of not very happy with really where I was at, because music is just, a lot of it is like right time, right place. And a lot of it's luck, but there's that perseverance and there's that drive. Like if you think about people like Ed Sheeran, there's a reason why he is where he is, because of his drive. He made sure he was doing 3 gigs a night rather than 1.
Yeah.
He was writing hundreds of songs like a year, so he was constantly just working harder. I remember I heard a story that he got signed by Atlantic, and he said, "Who's your busiest artist on the label?" And he said, at this time, it's probably James Blunt. And he said, "Give me his diary, and whatever he does, I want to do double."
Right.
And so it's that kind of work ethic that I think you need within the music industry. But yeah, so I took 2 years off, which doesn't actually go hand in hand, because you're thinking he's going to take 2 years off. But obviously, it was health reason. But what I did in those 2 years, I wrote, I think it was something like 75 songs that I thought were good enough. So I had 75 songs written, and then I devised a plan. I moved back to London, and within those 2 years, I thought, okay, I need to find a manager. I need to find the Avengers. I need to find the dream team. Yeah. So I tried out a load of different managers. I worked with 4 different producers to do one song. So I recorded the same song 4 times, making sure whatever I did have was right. Plus having also these 75 songs. So if this song did go well, I would have something to back it up. And luckily, all that, we're talking like 10 years deep from that moment when I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to try and be a musician. 10 years later, 2016 comes about. Again, right place, right time. Spotify's starting to break out. We released a song that I was working with a really good producer, the 4th producer we tried out for this song. So it was like, I remember saying to my manager at the time, last ditch attempt, but if, it's got to work, I'm going to put all my heart and soul into it. Had very little money to back the project, but we knew that if we draw in enough favors, that will kind of, from people I've met along those 10 years,
make it happen.
And we'll make it happen. And luckily, touch wood, like the first single just when, it did a domino effect of just one thing after the other happened, where it went to number 1 in Brazil on the viral playlist through Spotify. We had like Sunday Brunch for Radio 2, all from this like Enemy premiere. like all of this exposure from this one song with very little money, but all we had is like 100% passion and just wanting to succeed and putting all my pool of contacts together that I built up over those 10 years to make it almost like putting everything into that point of this release has got to work. Otherwise, what the hell am I going to do?
What am I going to do?
It's definitely like when I think back to music and like starting out, if you said to you, like if you had children, for example, if your child said to you, I'm going to do this thing, but I'm not going to get paid for the first 10 years. Everyone would be like, you're crazy. Like imagine if someone said to you, oh, go and work in Tesco. You're not going to get paid for 10 years, but you might become the manager one day. You would just never do it. You would never do it. So I think it is just driven by passion and obviously just developing your craft. But I don't think I was born to do music. I think it's a case of like the fact that I've put so much hard work into it, those 10,000 hours that everyone talks about. That it's almost like, okay, I've kind of like I've paid my dues. And then ever since, just keep from 2016, it's that just relentless wanting to succeed and wanting for people to hear your songs that has got to me to the place where I'm comfortably like, a full-time musician. And that was always the goal. Has there ever been like a point where, anything's been easy? Like, has there ever been that moment where where it's something that you just go, oh, that's just come together, miraculous. Has that ever happened? No, I don't think so. I think anything in life, if it's worth like fighting for, it's not easy. Whether that be relationships, your health, like you think your music. One thing I would say is when things are going well, you take it for granted. And I think that definitely comes with youth as well. I imagine a lot of like early pop stars, if you spoke to like boy band or something and be like, did you enjoy it when you were like smashing it? They'd probably be like, oh, I wish kind of now I enjoyed it more because they know the other side of it. So I think it's like, no, I don't think it ever came easy. I think things get easier as you progress up the ladder. But the problem is, once you do progress up the ladder, your expectation is even higher. When we released that first single, my expectation of going number one in Brazil was not on the list. Of course. My expectation was like, oh, maybe we'll get to make another song. That was the expectation. And I think the problem is as you go along in your career with any businesses, I imagine, or if you're a football team, whatever, if you win the Premier League once, you're going to want to win it again. Of course. So I think that is the problem. So I don't think anything does come easy, I think even, again, back to this Ed Sheeran, I think he's a great example of like a modern day musician. People would say to him, do you have any awards in your house? And apparently he only has one award. And it was the one that was from the last album, a number one award, because he was like, I didn't think I'd be number one again after being 10 years in the game. And that you'd think, oh, Ed Sheeran can have number ones all day long. But I think even then you've got to have like the awareness to think, no, I've got to keep on trying to maintain, where
standards
I am at.
Interesting.
But I don't think you can drop the ball, and I don't think things should be easy. I think if it becomes easy, then you should probably stop. Because you want to keep striving for being, you're only as good as your last song, and you want to keep on bettering that song. Do you think there's a point where like where does that stop? Is what I'm saying. Like, where does that, you were saying like you keep going for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Is there a point where you just go, I've had enough now, that's cool? Or does that come naturally? Or is that something that's like, nah, till the day I die, I'll always have that over there? I think the problem as well, I think with being a musician, I think is you feel like you have to own that role. Like you feel like I'm a musician, so I should be playing music all my life. And I think what it all boils down to, what makes you happy. And if you're if like being in the studio 24/7 makes you happy, then that doesn't feel like work. And that's where like the drive comes from. And I think that's where the reward comes from. And I think if you stop feeling rewarded and you're not enjoying it as much, then that's when you probably should step out and take a step back and regroup. Even songwriting should be a process of like, you should still enjoy it, even if it's hard. Because that's where the reward comes back as well. Like if something's difficult, whether it be building a house, but you look at the house at the end of it and be like, wow, that is a beautiful house. Then you feel that's where the gratification, whereas if it was easy, you'd be like, there's not the same, I don't think there is the same reward, you know?
The same, yeah. It's almost like the difference between, you know, like if you've, like you said, like that, building a house is a good analogy. It's like if you build a house and it takes you years to do it, but then at the end of it, you get it. You're like, wow, that's brilliant. And I earned it and whatever. Whereas it's not the same feeling if you were given a lottery ticket and just went, I'll go and buy one. I think they're both success, but it's like kind of like there's a different feeling that accompanies that feeling when you've worked your fucking bollocks off for it. Definitely. Definitely.
Even with building a fan base as well, like you feel like every gig you do, you're just picking up that bandwagon of people that you're literally adding to your bus. Yeah. And you're just driving around, like adding more people to your bus on a tour or something. And you can see at the end of it, be like, wow, okay, I've worked my ass up and I've picked up these many fans. Yeah. Like it's the reward at the end of it. Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything to be said for the journey itself where you go, did this gig, and I'm just loving being a part of this, or are you thinking, you know, that gig was good, right, now on to the next one, now on that, you know, or are you just sort of, you know?
I think when you have a bad gig is the telling thing, isn't it? Because then when you have a good gig, you really enjoy it from that point. You know, I remember we did a tour recently where it was like 17 dates of playing theatres, and it, you know, you've done that as well. Like, it's like when you play a theatre for the first time, you're like, whoa, this is fucking beautiful. Yeah, and then by the 15, you're like, it's all right.
Yes, all right.
Yeah. And it's like, and it is, that's when it does become a bit weird. But again, it's like, you know, you're only human at the end of the day.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
You know, you can bring it back to any analogy when you first kiss your wife before, you know, when you've met her, and it's like this magical kiss. And then you're like 5 years deep into a relationship and you're like, you know, it's like, it's those things, but you know, obviously you love that person, you love doing music, and it's like, there's something that keeps you going.
But all relationships, I suppose, whether it's a relationship with work or with music or a person or whatever, they all evolve, don't they? And they all transform and change. And
you can only have so many firsts.
Yeah.
You know, first time you play an arena, first time you play theatre, or first time your song gets played on radio, those things, like, but I think you can't measure it on that instant feeling of like the dopamine effect of like, oh, it feels good. I think it's got to be this, it's got to be deeper than that, of like I've got to write these songs, I want people to hear them.
Yeah it's like a part of your soul that you're sort of telling people. It's not just it's not just money.
You know, it's not, and it comes with the sacrifice as well. Like if you're away all the time working, whether it be in a studio all hours a day, or if you're touring the world, you're away from your loved ones, and there is sacrifice. It isn't all just glamorous, you know.
Definitely.
And I think that you've got to weigh up like what makes you happy as well.
Yeah, of course. So go on then, mate. Talk us, like, you know, talk us through the like what happened with the Crohn's colitis thing and all that stuff, and you know what happened and how did it make you feel and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed probably when I was 20, so 15 years ago. And I was diagnosed when I was 20, and it was basically came out of nowhere. I had stomach problems, and there was nothing in my family that would lead it back to Crohn's. 3 months later, after having all these symptoms and, you know, whatnot, from diarrhea, vomiting, weight loss, fatigue, all of that, I got diagnosed and said, oh, you've got Crohn's. And I was like, I didn't even know what that was, you know.
Yeah.
It sounds something out of Star Wars or something, you know. I've had Crohn's. And then, as you know, it's been a huge learning curve and a journey with like mental health and getting my knowledge up with Crohn's and learning how to deal with it, finding the right, you know, people to manage the management of the actual health, you know, whether it be my gastro person or anything like that. But it's definitely been a journey, and obviously it's a chronic disease, so it's not going away. And it comes, you know, in a lot of ways, it's had a benefit on things like music, because there's I could give you a list of reasons why. So one is I never take my health for granted when I'm touring. If I'm healthy, I make sure that I'm just like, play every gig like it's my last gig.
Yeah,
where I've been on tour before where people are out getting smashed and then the next gig is awful.
Yeah, and I've had
So
that as well.
you never take it for granted, and you always, because the other side of being unwell in a hospital bed for 2 months, and then the other side when you're on tour with your favorite bands playing to crowds of people, and so I never take it for granted, and I also it's given me that perspective to make sure that I put everything into it. So I think it's been and also as well, I think it's made me a stronger human being, and also given me that drive of kind of, really, you're thinking, I nearly died like last year, and that kind of feeling, and then thinking, well, I've got to make sure I live my life to the full.
Yeah.
And then everything I do is something I love and be proud of.
Yeah. And it not
because
just be a waste of time.
Because you know how easily it can go. But it comes with its, there's a lot of obstacles along the way, whether it be touring and, food management. What to eat on tour is a really difficult thing. Fatigue, lack of sleep, sleeping in different hotel beds, whatever. It's definitely difficult, and it's something that I need to always work on, and I can't forget.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, that has made me a stronger human being, and it's also made me appreciate the simple things as well.
Yeah, yeah. And what, like, in terms of you said it then, like how that experience has impacted the music and stuff, because it's obvious, it's actually, as negative as it was, it's obviously been a positive. You've taken it as a positive, which is a testament to you and your mindset. But what would you have anything that's like a particularly, we touched on it before, like what would you say to youngsters or like students or something like that who are looking at going into the industry and being like, you won't get paid in Tesco's for 10 years. What would you say, what would you say as like advice or, anything like that, from all of that experience you've got, your mindset and all that stuff? What would you say?
I would say if you really, love something, if you look at life, if you think about it like this, you only live once, let's say you only live once, why would you invest all your time in something you don't love?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even if you're just all about the money and are getting paid and being the big rock star, then you're probably in it for the wrong reasons, because you'll never fulfill and you'll never be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a philosopher talking about he was like a really well-paid guy. He bought 16 Aston Martins in different colors, all of this stuff, one after the other. And he was thinking, I don't feel happy even when I bought this one, but maybe if I buy that one, I'll feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
But he was saying when he's in the car, he's not thinking I'm driving an Aston Martin. He's thinking I'm on the road driving somewhere.
Right.
So I think it's a case of if you are taking that journey of I'm not going to make any money for a couple of years, you've just got to think, but I am enjoying what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying seeing my music grow, even if it's 1 to 5 people. Yeah. And I'm enjoying someone coming up to me after the gig going, that song meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
The little things are what you should be focusing on and how it makes you feel. If music for the first 10 years doesn't make you happy and you haven't made any money, then why are you doing it?
Yeah, of course. And
so
it's like there's always that practicality element of, I've got to pay the bills and stuff as well. Yeah. So I've got to make this work somehow, come hell or high water. Do you think it's the same when it's even when you're in that, fuck, I really fucking need this music career to work, to pay money or whatever?
I think also people have this mindset of I need to be a pop star, when realistically not everyone can be a pop star, but you've just got to find what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And if what makes you happy is chilling with your girlfriend on a Sunday, then that's cool, because the likelihood is if you are this world-famous pop star, you're not going to have that privilege of chilling with your girlfriend on a Sunday.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
Everything comes at a price. But I would say if you enjoy that journey of even playing in front of 5 people or even just being in the studio writing a song, why wouldn't you see what you can do with it?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's a case of even if you enjoy sewing and you want to be, see where that goes. Anything like that, any hobby that you think, actually, I've got something here that I can work on. I think that is the thing that you need to focus on. And if you're not enjoying it, then what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
Because, with music as well, you can make a quick buck and you can, do all these things you can do on X Factor and all this stuff. You can, put yourself on TV, put yourself in the spotlight. But ultimately, your happiness is at stake, and happiness is the main thing, really. Of
course.
Whether and money doesn't make you happy.
No.
So I think you've got to question what, if you're a student and 18, question what's your motives and why do you want to be a musician, and actually take away the financial gain from it.
Yeah. I think that's that's amazing advice. Yeah. And I actually find myself saying sort of similar things to my students as well, where I'm sort of saying to them, look, because they not all of them, but most of them do come at me with questions that are very much like, how do you be a multi-million-pound success story? That's, whatever. And I'm a bit like, well, I don't really fucking know, but also why, more to the point, why is that so important to you that you do that? Because like you just said, even for the Ed Sheerans of the world and whatever, it's so much work. It's so much, and particularly in music, even if you wanted to be a chef, it would be hard work, wouldn't it? To get involved in all that. So I suppose
also everyone, no one's an overnight success.
No one is. No.
Yeah, everyone's done the same toilet tour.
Yeah.
We did a gig with Lewis Capaldi, and I think it was 2016, and he was the first guy on. He was the first guy on. Cut to 3 years later, he's the biggest selling artist. Everyone's done that thing. It's the same tour. No one, the Beatles. They were playing Hamburg. They weren't it wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
So I think it's but they had the songs and they had something. So I think it is just hard work.
Definitely.
And I know stories of Ed Sheeran where he was so close to quitting. Where people tell him to dye his hair, lose weight, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it is. I think you've got to be in it for the right reasons.
Completely. Yeah, completely. Brilliant, mate. Well, I mean, I feel
that's covered quite a lot, hasn't it, Ben?
I feel like that's covered loads, mate. I mean, just thinking. In fact, what I'll do is I'll stop recording. But I'll say thank you on this bit, because I actually feel that was amazing. That was really good. You might want to put that out anyway.